My mother's father was a proud man pursuing a law degree who sold blintzes and apples from a roaming pushcart on the sidewalks of Depression-era Lower East Side streets. My mother's father's mother was a proud woman who spoke no English, fresh off the boat, pregnant Yiddish, articulating everything left behind and dreamt of coming to, a necessary break from pain and suffering that broke family in its wake. Pregnant with anticipation of a new life lived, she moved from shtetl to city of accents and smells and foods and countries more than she knew existed, all on the same block, and this was home enough to be, to give birth, to sink into what we would now call a mild case of postpartum depression that buried itself in shit-sane streets of turn-of-the-century New York when a meal was a nickel more than she and her husband had. And a doctor cost even more, and with English still too far away, but sadness always close and walls coming in closer as streets rose up around and noise escalated, and my mother's father's father was a proud man in a new land with new child who just could not make the time to make ends meet, with woman descending rapidly into never-ending pain when new child cried no matter what mood mother or father were in. And the village was gone, but here were city lights blinding and city streets calling, and somewhere there was a safe and quiet place she could go to get better or worse. November 10th, 1911, Annie Schlashberg, 28, born in Russia, female, white, married, in the U.S. for 6 years. Family history of grandparents unknown. Father in Europe. 5 brothers and sisters who died in infancy. Reads Jewish, bright, never attended school. Married 10 years ago, wife of a tailor. Has 3 children. About 4 months after the birth of her last child, she would speak words out of nowhere and laughed at times without reason. Was unable to properly care for household duties and was more or less restless and always lazy. Originally admitted when present attacks began in 1909, excitable at time, causes unknown. On April 10th, 1920, she is asked her name, no reply. What month is it? No reply. She is said to be restless, filthy, delusions probable. She does not cooperate, talks incoherently and irrelevantly in a mumbling tone. She is extremely dull, they write, indifferent, out of context and probably disoriented. Is rather simple and shallow and smiles during the interview. Good physical health, can care for herself. On January 13th, 1921, the doctor mentioned she speaks Yiddish and that on the account of her language difficulty, the patient cannot cooperate with examiner. And on January 27th, 1953, the doctor says she refuses to wear shoes and stockings. She has to be entirely cared for. The early doctors remark how stupid she is, how she mumbled in gibberish, how quick it is when babble turns into babbling that we cannot return from. My mother was a proud girl living with another family in a 2-bedroom apartment in Washington Heights who did not know her grandmother was alive until she had become a proud woman herself.